Welcome to Crime Beat. I'm Anthony Robart. Tonight, a series of calls to 911 lead police to a chaotic crime and a disturbing discovery.
What are you seeing? Tell me now.
He's hanging himself off the bridge with the rope.
The police were getting multiple calls and they had multiple scenes.
A guy showed up here with a knife and gave me the knife and told me to kill him, and then he walked out and said he had just killed my daughter.
That doesn't happen in real life. That happens in the movies.
Calgary Police, what's the address of the emergency?
I'd like to report a murder, please.
I think you have to anticipate at that point that this story is going to get muddied.
She was a very solid witness and she recounted very carefully what had happened.
There were 2 partial fingerprints that were located and they had been identified to the suspect.
That was always sort of the question in our minds, is why?
Everything is shattered, even to this day.
And now here's Nancy Hixt with Justice for Lacey.
On a cold, snowy evening in the fall of 2012, sirens could be heard in Calgary from one end of the city to the other.
The police were getting multiple calls and they had multiple scenes.
Calgary Police, what's the address of the emergency?
I was just driving by and there's this guy trying to hang himself off the bridge here. He's trying to hang on, and I don't know. I'm trying to pull him back up. He's trying to hang on.
2 Good Samaritans came upon the harrowing scene and had no idea the twisted turn of events that led the man they were trying to save to the bridge that night. And even more horrific, what police discovered moments later, just a few feet away from the bridge. Lacey Jones-McKnight was a middle child, falling between her younger and older brothers.
Lacey was an old soul from the moment she was born.
She also had a special love for animals, and by the time she was 20, she had 5 cats.
She would bring home animals and keep them for weeks, hidden in her bedroom. That was not uncommon for her to do. And then this cat or dog would just magically appear. And then she would tell me, "Oh, Mom, we have to keep him now." Lacey and I both just always loved butterflies, and then she went out and surprised me with a tattoo of butterflies on her ankle. And I always thought of Lacey as a butterfly, very soft, kind, gentle, beautiful, magical. So now I call Lacey my beautiful butterfly. I mean, that's how I view her. She was magical to me.
Lacey also had hope and faith tattooed on her wrists. She always chose to see the best in others.
She was a sweet soul, and she genuinely cared about people. You know, I remember one of her friends had a breakup with her boyfriend, and I just remember Lacey running up the stairs and grabbing her sandals and running back down the stairs, and I was like, "Where are you going? What's going on?" And she's like, "Mom, so-and-so needs me, I have to go." And she's running with her shoes in her hand. I mean, she wasn't even gonna bother to put the shoes on before she went out the door, right? That was Lacey. She was there for her friends. She cared and she loved unconditionally.
After high school, Lacey juggled a day job as a receptionist and night shifts at several local bars.
She didn't have a plan. She didn't know what she wanted to do. She had some thoughts to be a veterinarian, to be a flight attendant, possibly a nurse. but she just could never really pinpoint what she wanted to do, and that's why she was bartending, was just to fill that void until she could figure out what she wanted to do. I mean, it was easy money, right?
That's where Lacey met her first real love. His name was Christopher Gunther, but his friends called him Trey.
He was a bouncer at the bar where Lacey was working, at Desperados. And the first time that I met him was when they were going on a trip to Mexico. She brought me a painting that she had made. She told me they had gone to some different little shops, and I mean, there's pictures of them on the beach.
Lacey was swept off her feet.
Flowers, taking her out, I mean, taking her to Mexico, I mean, that, you know, as a single parent, I couldn't even do that for Lacey. Always being there for her.
When they began dating in early 2012, Lacey was 19 and Trey was nearly 10 years older.
I was impressed that she had chosen an older man who had been married, who had a child, he worked 2 jobs. I mean, he was taking her to Mexico. You know, we couldn't ask for anything better for Lacey.
Weeks after they returned from their beach vacation, Trey took Lacey on another trip, this time to the Rockies.
They were in the hot springs, and he proposed to her.
Just months later, Trey moved in with Lacey.
I was living in a house that had a rental suite in the basement, and I said, that's the perfect spot for you and him. And he wanted to be with her. I mean, he moved in with her. I mean, that meant a lot to Lacey. It was my birthday, right around the time that he moved in June. He took the whole family out for an amazing meal. And I remember asking him, why did you do this for me? And he said, why not? It's your birthday.
It seemed like a storybook romance, until one day, Lacey came across a shocking post on Trey's social media.
She just said, me and Trey broke up. He cheated on me, and there's a picture of him and her on Facebook. I mean, it just broke her heart. Just broke her heart.
Lacey was shocked to learn he continued seeing his ex on the side. Shelley said Trey blamed his infidelities on some struggles with his mental health.
He revealed to us that he was bipolar, and that's why he was behaving the way he was. And so Lacey actually took him to her family doctor, and the doctor prescribed him medication, and he did great for a couple of weeks. You know, the flowers, taking her out, you know, buying her, you know, a new bedroom set type of thing. And then he got caught cheating again. I mean, Lacey, I think, caught him cheating at least 3 different times with this same girl.
For the next few months, the relationship was on again, off again. But no one ever imagined in the span of the 8-month relationship, one of them would end up dead.
Coming up after the break, a series of 911 calls lead police to a disturbing discovery. A whirlwind romance unravels almost as quickly as it began, but no one expected the tragic turn it would take. We now return to Nancy Hixt with Justice for Lacey.
Shelley Jones told me the timeline of events in 2012 is blurry.
Things went so quickly to bad that it's hard to even remember when each of the things occurred, because there was so many things that went wrong.
By August of that year, 6 months after they began dating, things took a turn.
She caught him cheating again, so he took off on a flight to Mexico, but he had broken into our apartment because she had kicked him out. So he had broken into the apartment, and he had taken a picture, and he had cut himself, and he had left blood all over this picture and all over the wall. I mean, it's all, now looking back, it was all dramatization, right, on his part. But he wrote a note on the back of the picture, you know, I'll be looking at you from above. And of course, when Lacey finds this, she's devastated. She loves him. She genuinely loves him and cares about him. So she flew down to Mexico to save him. When they came back from Mexico, I picked them up at the airport. Lacey got into the car, and I had him we were putting the suitcases in the trunk. And I looked at him and I said, you ever touch my daughter again, you ever hurt my daughter in any way, and we're done. I'm done with you.
But things only escalated in the weeks that followed. And by October of 2012, 8 months after they started dating, Gunther moved out.
Well, he was kicked out because he had cheated again and gotten caught. So Lacey kicked him out. I believe it was the next day or 2 days after. I wasn't at home, but I had come in the back door. I was coming through my kitchen, and Lacey was running up the stairs from her basement apartment, screaming, "Mom, he's in the house, he's in the house." And as soon as he seen me, and I told him to get out, he stopped. He stopped chasing, and he went back down to the apartment. I told Lacey to get in the bathroom and just to lock the door, and I called 911. And you know, Nancy, even when things were getting bad, my stomach was always in knots, wondering and worrying about when the next incident would be and how was Lacey doing. And I knew it was bad, but you don't ever contemplate, my God, this guy's gonna murder my daughter. That doesn't happen in real life. That happens in the movies.
On the evening of October 25th, 2012, Shelley took a nap before a night shift.
So I woke up to messages on my phone from Lacey. Running late, be there shortly. And then I responded with, okay, no problem. And then I got a message from her again, and there was foul language in it. And that's when I knew, Nancy. That's when I knew he had her. It was in that instant. Because Lacey didn't swear around me.
Moments later, a man burst into Shelley's home with a knife. Shelley called 911. These are excerpts from that call.
Calgary Police Emergency. Are you safe right now, Mom?
Hello, get here now. A guy showed up here with a knife and gave me the knife and told me to kill him, and then he walked out and said he had just killed my daughter.
Okay. And is he still there?
He just left. Please hurry.
Okay. Did he hurt you?
No, I want my daughter.
Okay.
And I don't know where she is.
Okay. Stay with me on the line, okay? Did you see the knife?
Yes, it was in my hand.
And do you still have it, or does he have
fought
it?
me for it.
Okay, where is the knife right now?
He's got it.
So you tried to fight him for it?
He gave it to me and told me to stab him. And then he took it away from me.
Did he leave in a vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, so stay
I
with
think it's a black Honda Civic. He seemed really calm when he first came in, but when he left, he was starting to shake, and
That's when he told me that he killed my daughter.
I'm thinking at this time is, he's got my daughter, she's still alive, and so I started screaming at him, "Where is my daughter?" And so I ran to the kitchen and I was looking out. My kitchen window faced the back alley, and I can see his tail lights of his vehicle because it's dark out now. It's 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And I'm just screaming, "Where is my daughter? I want my daughter. Please give me my daughter." And he says, look out the window. Can't you see her?" And I'm confused. I'm not understanding what's happening, Nancy. If she's there, why is she not coming in? This is all I'm thinking in my mind. He walks to the door, turns around and faces me, and he says, your daughter is effing dead. I killed your effing daughter."
About 15 minutes later, a couple driving in northeast Calgary sees a man in distress and calls 911.
So I was just driving by and there's this guy trying to hang himself off the bridge here.
Okay, so tell me exactly what happened. What did you see?
I don't know, I just saw some guy on the side of the bridge with the rope.
What happened? When did this happen?
Just now, he's hanging himself. Right now, I need ambulance. He's still alive.
Listen, stop talking and listen to me.
Okay.
All right, tell me. You're at the bridge.
Yeah.
And what are you seeing? Tell me now.
He's hanging himself off the bridge with the rope.
One moment.
Don't worry, I got you, man. Just hold on.
Okay, just wait.
Here, grab my hand, man.
Listen.
Get my hand.
Listen. What's going on there?
He's trying to hang himself off the bridge. I'm trying to get some help. Hold on, buddy. I got you.
You're hanging on to him?
No, he's just hanging on the rope. He's already, I can't pull him up.
Okay. We have lots of help on the way, okay?
When police arrived, they found a man hanging from a bridge with a rope around his neck. The Good Samaritan and the responding officer rescued the man. That's when he made shocking admissions to police.
After the break, those shocking admissions lead police to a horrifying discovery and the starting point of a homicide investigation. Welcome back to Crime Beat. As police rescued a man in distress, he reveals shocking details of a crime that leads investigators to unravel a deadly love triangle. We now return to Nancy Hixt with Justice for Lacey.
The man police found hanging off the bridge was identified as Christopher Trey Gunther. As he was being rescued, he told police, "You should have left me. My girlfriend is dead."
It's a statement that's admissible in court because it's provided immediately and without urging on the part of police officers immediately on coming into contact with someone. There is no chance to provide any chartering caution.
A few feet away from the bridge, officers found a black Honda Civic. Inside that vehicle, a horrifying discovery. In the front passenger seat was Lacey's lifeless body. Veteran Calgary Police Detective Colin Cavilla became the primary investigator assigned to the case.
So the decision was made to place Gunther under arrest for the murder of Lacey based on the overwhelming evidence we had. Gunther at that time, that happened fairly quickly, and Gunther remained under the care of Alberta Health Services and in the hospital.
But after making his startling admission during his rescue, Gunther stopped talking.
We conducted an interview bedside with him when he was he was unable to speak, maybe to 100% of his capacity, but due to some of the injuries from trying to hang himself. But he chose to remain silent during the interview. over the course of the next 12 hours while receiving medical treatment and recovering from that scenario, I think his mindset changed, and he decided that staying silent would be, on the advice of his lawyer, I'm sure, was the best course at that point, and there's nothing we can do to counteract that.
I think for me, the first time when I realized that it was not going to be 100% straightforward, where Gunther just simply owned up to what he had done, was the bedside interview. I think you have to anticipate at that point that the story is going to get muddied. And the next step was obviously to determine exactly what the scene of the offense was, where had it occurred, and what exactly had gone on.
In the far south Calgary community of Walden, a search warrant was executed at Gunther's home.
We're all searching for the truth. We're always looking for the truth. And the evidence right from the get-go pointed to Gunther having murdered Lacey. He had admitted it himself. There was strong evidence to support it all along the way. And then it was really just a matter of making sure every detail matched up, and there was nothing contradictory to that. The evidence was overwhelming. It was just really a matter of making sure that it was tied off and that there was no wiggle room, really, for there to be any other twist to the story other than the truth.
Meanwhile, Shelley Jones and her 2 sons were taken to Calgary Police Headquarters.
I'm frantically calling Lacey's phone and messaging her, and we were there for seemed like forever. But I knew sitting in that room, sitting there for that length of time, I knew it just clicked that that's why we were there, is because someone was coming to tell us that Lacey was dead. And so a homicide detective came in, and he just said, Lacey's dead. We found her ID on her. That was it, Nancy. That was it. Everything is shattered, even to this day.
During the search for evidence, officers discovered both Lacey's and Gunther's phones were missing.
He had thrown out his phone on Deerfoot Trail, and after leaving Shelley Jones' house, he had thrown Lacey's phone out of the car. Both those phones were found, and the people who found them were astute enough to understand that they were part of that case. So we were able to recover Lacey's phone, and a guy fixing lights along Deerfoot Trail found Gunther's phone. Her phone was found a couple blocks from Shelley Jones' house in Beddington. And again, it was somebody walking along and found the phone, and it all came together. And we analyzed those phones, and those phones, along with Megan Thibault's phone, and those phones had tons of text messages, and we were able to ascertain when the phone calls were made. So we had a couple days of just going through the phone records. So we had a ton of these phone records that were indications of the conversations and the state of mind and that type of thing.
As homicide investigators retraced Lacey's last steps, they learned more about her volatile relationship with Gunther.
Yeah, it appeared they were a couple that shouldn't have been together.
Joe Mercier became one of 2 prosecutors assigned to the case.
At the time of this incident, I was an assistant chief crown prosecutor in charge of domestic violence in the Calgary General Prosecution Office. For me, being in charge of domestic violence for a significant period of time, when a domestic situation results in a murder, it's always that situation that you're very concerned about in domestic violence, is that it's going to elevate and continues to get more serious.
Mercier said Gunther was not charged with assaulting Lacey prior to her murder. In hindsight, Shelley feels Gunther was manipulating her daughter, and she believed he was a narcissist.
That's what they look for, is a girl who's very sympathetic and wants to take care or save them. And that's who Lacey was. She wanted to take care, she wanted to save him, she wanted to make him better, and he knew that. He knew that, and he knew he could draw her in those ways. But you know, it didn't take long either for him to have Lacey wrapped, have her just head over heels in love with him, and that was his plan, is to get Lacey completely enveloped and into his life.
Shelley even questions his claims of mental health issues.
I don't think he took any medication. If he did, he took it as a recreational drug, if you know what I'm saying.
I think at the end of the day, it was based on jealousy and insecurity. I think that at some point that day, on October 25th, he realized that he wasn't going to have Lacey forever. And I think ultimately he made the decision that if he wasn't going to have her, then no one was going to have her. It's a reminder, I think, for everyone as to how bad it can go, how quickly, as soon as someone thinks that it's okay to conduct themselves violently in a relationship.
Coming up after the break, Gunther was ordered to stand trial for first-degree murder. But would there be justice for Lacey? Welcome back to Crime Beat. As the murder trial begins, could a third 911 call help prosecutors with their case against Gunther? We now return to justice for Lacey.
In February of 2015, Christopher Trey Gunther stood trial in front of a Queen's Bench justice for the first-degree murder of his ex-fiancée, Lacey Jones-McKnight.
Our theory was that he had intentionally killed her, that he had confined her, and once he had confined her, he was then able to kill her, which made it constructive first-degree murder.
The prosecution alleged Gunther choked Lacey repeatedly, bound her hands and legs, taped her mouth shut, and strangled her to death. More than 40 witnesses testified during the 2-week trial, including the medical examiner.
An autopsy was conducted within hours of Lacey's death, and several findings of trauma were already observable on Lacey's body, which included bruising all over her body, significant bruising in the front of Lacey's neck, pronounced petechia easily visible around her eyes, face, and neck. There was not just one finding of trauma, but a constellation of symptoms present which demonstrate that the cause of death was manual strangulation.
You'll recall Gunther refused to talk to homicide detectives, so there was no formal confession. That meant the case relied heavily on forensic evidence gathered by crime scenes investigators.
There were a number of things. A lot of the key forensic evidence came from the car, the bag that it was our theory that he put over her face, and there was a bundle of red tuck tape, and there was rope in the car, and of course there was the body in the car. There was red tuck tape found in the car, in the basement of the Walden residence, and on Lacey's sock. Lacey's DNA was found on the sticky side of some of that tape. That tape was reconstructed to show that it was a continuous piece, even though some was in the car, some in the residence, and some on her sock.
All the tape that was in the bag was all balled up and stuck together, so it all had to be tediously taken apart. So we managed to get it all taken apart. In total, I believe the 39 pieces that we put together were just under 5 meters. So almost 15 feet, I guess. Basically, being able to actually put all the little pieces together, it helped to assist that the investigators could say that the incident would have occurred in the basement of the residence. Then he transported her to the vehicle.
Court heard there was also some tape residue found on Lacey's wrist.
It obviously would have told that at some point it would have possibly been around her wrists, and then there was tape around the base of the bag, and there was hair attached to the tape, so it would almost lead you to believe that it could have quite possibly been used in the suffocation. The fact that his fingerprint was on there was obviously a key factor, as well as on the bag. It showed that he was obviously involved within the incident.
That was a pretty key piece of evidence indicating that she had been confined with tape. It was amazing, and you know, I was a police officer for 25 years before this. So I had been a police officer, and I'd seen a lot of identification work, and then I'd been a prosecutor for a significant period of time. This was amazing work on her part. How she was able to unravel that tape and put it all together was amazing work. And then of course there was DNA that was found on the bag, inside the bag, and his fingerprints outside the bag. That was very, very strong forensic evidence. And then there was DNA found, her DNA found on the tape as well. There was some adhesive on one of her wrists that we couldn't say for sure had come from the tuck tape, but again, it was circumstantial evidence that she had been bound and her wrists had been taped.
Then came further damning evidence, another 911 call. On the evening of October 25th, 2012, there were 3 calls to 911, each 15 minutes apart. The first one came in at about 9:15. The caller was Christopher Gunther's ex-fiancée. A warning, details you're about to hear are disturbing. These are excerpts from that call.
Calgary Police, what's the address of the emergency?
I'd like to report a murder, please.
And what's your name?
My name's Megan.
Last name, Megan?
It's Chivo. I need to report a murder.
Did it just happen?
I don't think it just happened, but he told me he started around 3, and then I don't know how long they were together for, but he just drove here with her, and he just left.
Sorry, he just what with her?
I told him I didn't believe him, so he drove here with her, and he just left.
And you saw her?
Yeah, he told me to come over to his car.
She was inside the vehicle?
She was in the vehicle, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't believe him.
We were able to watch Megan cross the road after Gunther's vehicle, consistent with Gunther's vehicle, had pulled in on the other side of the road of the vinyl, perfectly matching her statement. You could see Megan walk over to the car briefly, come back, and then slump over in a heap, clearly distraught and upset in front of the Vinyl nightclub. So pieces of information like that become very important down the road if this turns into a he said, she said situation, and Gunther tries to start denying what the witness is saying.
Okay, take a deep breath. I know this is really hard for you, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions though, all right? Now, was there any weapons involved or mentioned when he said this?
No, he said he just choked her to death. Because I'm his ex, and he told me something was weird, and he wanted me to go to his house to get his dogs, and I wouldn't. I came to work. And then he told me that he did something that he couldn't believe, and he snapped, and he went black, and he lost it. He told me everything, how he did it, what he did. I told him I didn't believe him.
Take a deep breath, okay? You're doing a great job giving this information. This is going to help us so much, okay? So this is your ex-boyfriend, Trey?
Yeah, he said he was going to go kill himself.
Just now?
Yeah.
Okay,
oh my God.
Do you know where he might go?
No, I have no idea. Yeah. He said something about going to her mom's house.
Why would he head to her mom's house?
I don't know, because they were arguing and stuff too, and he talked about killing her too.
Okay, so he was talking about going to Lacey's mom's house?
Yeah.
Coming up after the break, Gunther's shocking admissions to his ex would become a key part of the prosecution's case. Welcome back. As the first-degree murder trial continues, Gunther takes the stand in his own defense and shares a very different version of events. We now return to Nancy Hixt with the conclusion of justice for Lacey.
I need to report a murder.
Did it just happen?
I don't think it just happened, but he told me he started around 3, and then I don't know how long they were together for, but he just drove here with her, and he just left.
Sorry, he just what with her?
I told him I didn't believe him, so he drove here with her, and he just left.
All of the concerns that this young woman shared with the 911 operator came to fruition.
I think at the end of the day, Megan Thibault's statement and credibility was a key component. I think the ability to corroborate the information that she gave us, that backstopped by Shelley's information from the night, and in terms of what Gunther had done upon attending her house. I mean, he had walked in and given Shelley a knife and asked Shelley to kill him that night. So it's not normal behavior.
Megan was a very solid witness for being so traumatized and for being so young, but she was a very solid witness, and she recounted very carefully what had happened, and certainly him admitting in the phone call that he had choked her a number of times. That would account for the bruises all over her body, the bruises on her neck, the petechia, the deep bruising in her neck. That would certainly account for her being choked severely. And then the admissions he made to Megan that he had done it intentionally because he was afraid she would go to the police and report him for domestic violence. And then that was bolstered by a lot of the forensic evidence.
Court heard Christopher Gunther had been seeing both Lacey and his ex-fiancée, Megan. On October 25th, the day Lacey was killed, there were 98 texts between Gunther and Megan, along with 21 phone calls. That same day, he used Lacey's love of animals as a way to convince her to come over.
So there was texting going back and forth between the two, and Gunther had actually invited Lacey over to see some pit bull puppies that he had a litter of at the house there. And that was my understanding as to why Lacey attended the residence on that day. So we were able to piece together some communications that had gone on and put together a bit of a timeline. We were able to determine it was between 3 and 9:15 that day where the murder had occurred.
During the trial, Gunther testified in his own defense.
He gave evidence that he and Lacey had engaged in what would be referred to as rough sex, where they would have sexual intercourse, there would be choking to the point, almost to the point of unconsciousness, and as I recall, his evidence was that it went too far and he choked her and she didn't regain consciousness. That was his evidence, and that theory would have been that it was manslaughter or accidental death. Our theory was that he had intentionally killed her. I mean, it was up to Justice McLeod to go through the evidence and ascertain what theory he believed.
But the judge didn't believe Lacey's death was an accident.
Relief today from the mother of a Calgary woman murdered almost 2.5 years ago. Christopher Gunther has been found guilty of first-degree murder in the death of his ex-fiancée, Lacey Jones-McKnight. Global's Nancy Hixt was in court for the verdict today, and Nancy, the judge, made it very clear this case was proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
Linda, the judge read a lengthy verdict and said he felt Gunther intended to kill Lacey and confined her to do it, finding him guilty of first-degree murder. The judge called Gunther's version of Lacey's death contrived and said it was as if Gunther was tiptoeing through a minefield of evidence. The judge ruled Gunther bound Lacey's hands and feet and choked her to death. Gunther showed no emotion as the verdict was read, but for the young victim's family and friends, there was a huge feeling of relief that there is finally justice for Lacey.
I'm going to say exuberant. It's the best way to put it. Just extremely relieved, and huge burden has been lifted off our shoulders today. This monster destroyed so many lives, including his own. She was a beautiful young girl, and she loved him.
Gunther will receive an automatic life sentence with no chance of parole for 25 years. The judge delayed sentencing today to allow time for Lacey's loved ones to prepare their victim impact statements.
I've been working on it for months, and I think I've redone mine at least 60 times now, because I don't think there's ever any way that I can put into words what goes on inside my heart. Just the turmoil and the sorrow.
Christopher Trey Gunther was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. He'll be 51 years old when he's eligible to apply for day parole in 2034.
I want people to remember Lacey for who she was, not what he did to her. He doesn't deserve one more thought from anybody that cared about Lacey.
Shelley created a special memorial for Lacey at the Calgary Cemetery where she's laid to rest.
It was just somewhere that I could display my love for Lacey.
Shelley lives in New Brunswick now, so she can't visit Lacey's gravesite as often as she'd like. In 2022, it'll be a decade since Lacey was killed, and she would have just celebrated her 30th birthday.
You know, I compare it to that feeling when you're going down the steps and you miss a step, and that feeling of, that's what it feels like all the time. So much that has been stolen from her. It's hard, like even on social media, Nancy, I can't, when I used to have such close relationships with all of her friends, I can't anymore because they're all getting married, they're all having children, and it's just too painful for me. It's just too painful. I love that I have all those photos of her, and I wish, obviously I wish I had video, but I have my memories, and I'll never forget those special moments in our lives.
Shelley will never forget one of her final conversations with her daughter.
I think it was the day that she died, Nancy. We were both standing there crying, and I said, you know, I'm so sorry that you didn't have a father in your life to help you with things. Because he was in her life, but he wasn't in her life, if you know what I mean. Anyway, she said to me, you know, Mom, having you as a mother made up for all of that. I mean, that's a memory I'll cherish forever. I'm honored, and I'm proud to be her mom. I just feel I was so lucky to have such an amazing, incredible, beautiful daughter.
Christopher Gunther attempted to have his conviction overturned, citing the trial judge erred on several fronts. Defense claimed the justice failed to consider, quote, problematic aspects of his ex's testimony before accepting her as truthful. But in a unanimous decision, the Alberta Court of Appeal dismissed his appeal. The conviction for first-degree murder stands. He has since changed his name to TK Assoon. Lacey's legacy, meanwhile, continues to live on. On any given day, if you're driving in Calgary, you can still see at least one bumper sticker with the words, "Justice for Lacey." I'm Anthony Robart. Thank you for joining us tonight on Crime Beat.
To learn more about this case, subscribe and listen to my Crime Beat podcast now for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And for previous episodes of Crime Beat TV, check out our YouTube page or download the Global Go app to watch on your phone.